Welcome into Hand Raised Guys, presented by Comer Heating and Air, Southern Air Conditioning and Heating. I'm Neal McCready. It's a solo version of the big show today. Chase Parham on his way, or probably there by now, I assume. I haven't talked to him. I assume he's in Arlington. Ole Miss opens the baseball season tomorrow afternoon at Globe Life Field in Arlington against Arizona. He'll have coverage of that at rebelgrove.com. Ole Miss, Mississippi State. Saturday afternoon basketball, 5 p.m. at the Pavilion. I'll have coverage of that at rebelgrove.com. 10 weekend thoughts. Lots of stuff over the next couple days. It's been a day full of podcasts. I podcasted with Jeffrey Wright earlier this morning on Blue Sky Live. Hope you all enjoyed that one. In audio form, also had a Mind on My Money presented by Argent Wealth with Martin Palomo. Tyler Siskey and I had McCready and Siskey, powered by Rain Total Body Fuel. And then this wraps up the day with Hand Raised Guys, which is brought to you, as always, by Comer Heating and Air, Southern Air Conditioning and Heating. Different names, same great people, products, services. If you live in Oxford, Batesville, Tupelo, those areas, get in touch with Comer, 662-801-1777. If you live in Hernando, South Haven, Memphis, Horn Lake, Olive Branch, those kinds of areas, get in touch with our friends Lewisburg. Get in touch with our friends at Southern. 662-429-4429. Been saying this. It's awfully cold out right now. I just ran a quick errand in Oxford, and it's chilly, but it's going to get warm at some point. And when it does, you're going to want that air conditioner to be ready to operate for you and to cool your house. So here in the next few weeks would be a great time to get in touch with Comer and Southern. Check in with them. Make sure that AC is going to be ready to go, because if it needs some repairs, you want to do it now. You don't want to have to do it when things get hot and suddenly you have a problem. So get in touch with our friends at Comer and Southern. You get fantastic customer service with them, great products as well. Make sure you tell them that you heard about them on MPW Digital. We would appreciate that. I'm in the Clark Ford studios. Clark Ford is in Amory, Mississippi. Hang on, caller. Let me finish paying some bills here, and I'll get to you. 662-257-1900 is that number. Ask for my buddy Corey Clark. Tell Corey what Ford product you're looking for. He'll send you a quote within 15 business hours, right to the bottom line. No hassle, no haggle. You get your quote, and the rest is up to you. You can shop that quote around. You can do what I've done, what I recommend that you do. Let's hop into Clark Ford today. 662-257-1900. Guests join on the Campbell Clinic Hotline. From fractures and sports injuries to complex spine and limb conditions, the pediatric orthopedic physicians at Campbell Clinic in Oxford are the only specialized pediatric orthopedic team in North Mississippi, providing expert care for growing bodies. Visit CampbellClinicOxford.com to schedule an appointment or call 901-759-3111. And finally, before we get to the caller, this will be the Friday morning Blue Sky Live. That's brought to you, obviously, by our friends at Blue Sky. So if you're out driving around this weekend, it's a holiday weekend. You got Valentine's Day, President's Day, basketball game. Some people heading down probably to Ridgeland for the state soccer championships. Got high school baseball around. Whatever the case may be, stop and look at stop into Blue Sky. Fill up. You can also fill up your tank outside and fill up yourself inside. Great selection. Always clean. Always convenient. And always very nice at Blue Sky throughout Mississippi. Caller, who do we have?
What's up, Neil? It's Tupelo.
Hey, Tupelo, what's up, man?
Not a whole lot. Just trying to get home and throw some chicken quesadillas on the grill.
There you go. It's awfully cold for grilling, but that's okay. That's what the fire's for, right?
Yeah, and it's a Blackstone, but I promised my dad, so I guess I just got to live with it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I have a Blackstone. I love Blackstone. I don't use it nearly enough, probably because most of the stuff you make on a Blackstone feels like it's kind of high caloric, and so I don't use it as much as we do sometimes, but I love it. It's fun.
Yeah, no, I understand. My dad lives just right down the road from me. He has he has the 4-burner Blackstone. He never uses it. I've begged him to give it to me, but
oh yeah,
I've
got the 4-burner. It's awesome. That thing gets hot now, and once it gets hot, it's almost impossible to cool it off without turning it off.
it's a weird device because in the summer it's almost too hot to use, but in the winter it's almost too cold to use, and it blows my mind. But anyway, no, I was just gonna hop on and talk. I want to mention one more thing about the NBA, and then I want to talk about baseball. But are the Mavericks handling this whole situation about as poorly as possible?
Yes.
I mean, kicking fans out of the stadium.
It's horrible.
For holding up a sign that says "Fire the GM Nico" or whatever. I mean,
the one guy mouthed the words "Fire Nico" on the jumbotron, and they kicked him out. He mouthed the words. He didn't even say the words. He mouthed them. "Fire Nico." That's all he said. That's not profane. It's not offensive.
They're not reading the room at all. Did you see that he was at SMU's men's basketball game last night?
Yeah.
And I mean, the room. I don't know. I don't know if he
Tupelo. They traded Luka Doncic at 25.
Yeah.
Luka Doncic took the Mavericks to the NBA Finals last year. The Mavericks beat the Thunder, beat the Timberwolves, beat somebody else, got to the Clippers, I guess, went to the NBA Finals before they lost to the champs, Boston. And then they trade him at 25 for Anthony Davis, who, when he's healthy, is a great player. And Anthony Davis, in his first game with the Mavericks, has an elite first half and then does something to an abdominal muscle or something and is going to miss at least a month. I mean, it was the Anthony Davis experience in one afternoon. And of course the people are pissed. I mean, they might not make the play-in.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the other part, and I want to talk about baseball. I promise. I know the NBA is, but anyway, here's the thing. I forgot to mention this last week. If the Mavericks somehow made it to the finals, got to Game 7 this year, and let's say Donovan Mitchell hits a game-winning 3 in Game 7 for the Cavaliers to win the finals, that trade's not worth it. Because you were just in the finals last year and lost. What difference is it now to have Anthony Davis and lose in the finals, and now you've set yourself back 6 years?
Well, they're not going. I mean, I know you know this. They're not going to the finals. I mean,
no, they're not.
They're not. They're not. They're
I don't think they're getting out of the play-in.
They're done.
I mean, but anyway, I mean, I think that's the worst. I think they're handling this the worst way possible. I mean, kicking people out of the stadium. He's attending the local college basketball, and I don't know if he has a son or a nephew or a family friend that plays on the team. And I don't like to tell people what to do in their personal lives, but if I was in his circle, I would have heavily advised not going to that basketball game because it's not going to end well. The whole stadium was chanting, or the student section was chanting, to fire Nico. I mean, anyway, I just think it's a lack of awareness. Or they're doing it out of spite. And if that's the case, then if I'm a big-time free agent or basketball player, I don't know if I would want to sign there, knowing that they may trade me to whoever for nothing.
I think they're going to make the play-in. They're the 8 seed right now. They're 29-26. They're a game out of 7, 2 out of 6. They're too far away from 5 to catch the Lakers. So the highest they can get is 6. They're a half game out of 9. Sacramento's a half game behind them. They are a game and a half ahead of the Warriors, who are 10. They're 2.5 ahead of the Suns, who are 11th and fading. And they're 4.5 ahead of the Spurs, who are 12. And they're probably fine there. So they're going to make the 8, 9 probably. Yeah, I mean, they're realistically, they're going to have to beat Minnesota or the Clippers, or if they lose that game, turn around and beat Sacramento or Golden State in an elimination game to get the 8, at which point they'll play the Thunder without Luka.
Yeah. Congratulations.
Yeah, and the Thunder would approach that with a ferocity. And if they
Yeah,
get the 7, they're probably going to get Denver or maybe Memphis. Probably Denver. Good luck.
Well, yeah, good luck. And my promise last statement, but I'll give you a team that if you told me they were in the Western Conference Finals and had a legit chance, if they were, let's say if you told me this team was in Game 7 of the Western Conference Finals, I would not doubt it. Clippers. They've played really well lately.
Yeah.
James Harden has really played defense well the last about 10 games. And I watched them last night. They played the Grizzlies last night, and it wasn't a good read because the Grizzlies we were on a back-to-back the second night. Ja didn't play, and you could kind of tell they knew the All-Star break was upcoming, and it kind of got to the point where they were just playing not to get hurt. But the Clippers look good, and when Kawhi plays, they're a top 10 team. But anyway, I wanted to talk about baseball. I was listening to the podcast this morning with you and Jeffrey. I think your Mike Bianco getting fired stance is spot on. I know a couple of the players on the team, and they think that they're going to be better defensively in the infield. I don't really know. Personally, as an Ole Miss fan, I would hate for the image of Ole Miss baseball being the guy that led you to a national championship, won the national championship, won the College World Series. You fire him, and then within the next 10 years, the stadium is going to be named after him. That would just be a weird image in my mind. I could be the only one, but I would not want to fire the guy that we're going to name the stadium after within the next decade. So I hope that they make the tournament. I think they will. I think the pitching is going to be a little bit better, and as long as they don't bat a bottom if they're not bottom 3 in the league in batting, I think they'll make the tournament.
I'm going to leave any judgment on whether I think they'll make tournament or not until I can watch other teams play. This is the beginning of that process for me. I do it every year. The last few years when I decided that I was going to be a better Blue Sky Live co-host in the mornings when we talked about college baseball, because I don't follow it that closely by nature at all. It's just but I've gotten better about it. So I'm going to wait. I'm going to try to watch most everybody, and then I'll start kind of making some comparisons and that kind of thing. I have at this point 0 point of reference on how good or not good Ole Miss will be as compared to the rest of the league. Haven't seen a pitch yet, but I will make myself start watching some this weekend, next weekend, a little bit in my spare time. I'll put it on a computer. I'll put it on the other TV. I'll try to watch Tennessee and LSU and Vanderbilt and Arkansas and Florida and start trying to make some comparisons. And then when SEC play comes, I'll watch. A couple weekends in, I'll have a pretty good read. Last year, after about 2 weekends, I looked at Chase and I said, that's not a tournament team. And by that point, I had probably seen the other teams a lot more than he had, and I was right.
Yeah, well, the hope is, that Hunter Elliott's back to his capability of being a pitcher. And
well, that's imperative. If he's not, they probably don't have enough. If he is, then that obviously changes the equation. And then, you don't know who's going to get hurt. Hopefully nobody gets hurt at any other school, but there will be injuries, and there will be some team will underachieve, some team will overachieve, and maybe Ole Miss will be the overachieve team. It's just, there's no way to know yet. You got to wait and see there will be a lot of these knee-jerk reactions to whatever happens this weekend, and I will try not to do that, because it's the middle of February. Nobody's losing anything in the middle of February, and nobody's winning anything in the middle of February. It's just, I think you just got to wait and watch a few weeks and let them get a couple weeks into SEC play, and then you have a read. But as for the whole Bianco thing, I think it's got to look really bad and feel really bad for you to ultimately make that move. But I could be wrong. I have not talked to anybody over there about it. It's not my beat. I don't pretend that it is. Just kind of a gut feeling based on just the state of college athletics today. Before you before you fire a legendary national championship coach who's been at your program forever and have to pay him and his staff, and then you got to pay a new staff and all that. I think it's gotta look pretty bad.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely my favorite time of the year. Spring, summer's the best. I mean, we got spring training starting next Thursday. I know the Dodgers are playing. It's the best time of the year in my opinion. I love football, but it's the best. I'm excited. I'm a Cardinals fan, so I mean, for once since really 2019, it feels like the Cardinals have figured out what they want in the future, and they're trying to move towards that. I mean, they need to move Nolan Arenado as quickly as possible. And with the Red Sox signing Bregman last night or whenever that was, that kind of hinders that momentum.
They'll have to eat a contract.
Well,
what you got in baseball is like you saw this with us. I was watching Jed Hoyer earlier this afternoon. He spoke to the media covering the Cubs that were asking about the whole Bregman thing and where they go from there. And it's pretty obvious that a lot of teams are really being careful not to get into these tax thresholds with the labor stoppage coming in 2 years and total uncertainty. And the Arenado contracts, it's got a lot of money in it, so you're not going to get teams to absorb that right now. The Cardinals will have to eat a lot of it.
Yeah, and I've seen some people upset about the Cardinals eating that money, and my thought is, okay, he's owed like $64 million in total.
Yeah.
And what was kind of being leaked about the Red Sox trade is that the Cardinals would have to pay about 32 of that. Well, that saves you $32 million. Even if you have to eat it, if you're that desperate to trade him, and that's not anything that I'm speculating. They've said that they're that desperate to trade him. Why would you not trade him and save $32 million instead of waiting until next offseason, where at that point, I don't know how much Arenado would be worth. He'd be like 32 or so by then. And when he gets a bad attitude and doesn't care, doesn't want to be there, he doesn't play well. I mean, I've seen that. He just kind of swings at things. So I don't know. It's interesting. I'm hoping that soon they can make a move. I've read some things that it's even said that he may get moved between spring training and the actual season starting, which is about 3 days worth of time. So I don't know how that's going to go down, but it's fascinating. And the CBA that's coming up, I mean, I just hope that doesn't last 2 months or whatever. I hate when a baseball season cut short, but I guess we'll have to see.
Yeah, it's going to be. It depends on how firm everybody's willing to draw the lines, but it sounds like they have very little common ground going into that negotiation. The owners are determined to fight for a salary cap. The players are putting saying that's the bridge too far, and they're pointing out that the game made more money for owners last year than it ever has, and the owners are pointing out that the players are making more today than they've ever made, and it feels like it's pretty acrimonious right now.
Yeah, and baseball may be the only sport where the salary issue it's a problem at the top end, but it's more of a problem at the bottom end. I mean, there's no reason for the Athletics to only be putting $70 million in a salary pool. I mean, but that's just my opinion. I mean, it's not. I don't like the Dodgers can buy whoever they want, and they just don't care about this threshold tax. But I don't know. I think the bottom of the league is more of a problem than who overpays for people. But anyway, I'm gonna let you go. I'm gonna get in here and see what's going on in the house. So take it easy.
Good luck with the quesadillas. Thanks for the call.
All right, thanks. Go Cardinals, Neal. Bye.
Bye. Yeah, I'm not even. I'm so checked out on the Cubs right now that I can't even engage in Cardinal hatred. I'm not even mad at the Cubs for not doing the Bregman thing. I understand not giving Alex Bregman $40 million a year. I totally understand it. If anything, I'm kind of frustrated. I'm frustrated at the Cubs fans, I think, for doing the whole thing with the Ricketts family. When the Ricketts families, they're spending a lot of money. They don't. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe they should be more transparent. Perhaps they're making it very clear they don't want to go into that second apron, and it is punitive when you go there. They accidentally went there last year. Someone made an accounting error. It happens. All right, we had some questions in the stream. Let me see if I can get to some of those. All right, Grind touched on something that when it happened, I was like, oh, that was wild. So Dan Hurley, after beating Creighton the other day, yells up at a fan, says, two rings, points at his fingers, talking about the 2 championship rings. And then he calls the guy Baldy. And Dan Hurley's bald. Dan Hurley's bald. I don't know how, like, that's the last insult that I'm ever going to, if I'm mad at somebody, the last thing I'm ever going to call them is something bald related. And I'm so used to it now that if you call me bald, I'm like, yeah, no shit. I know I'm bald. I get it. I've been that way for a long time. But I that's not the insult I'd use with the fellow follically challenged person. So I'm with you, Grind. I agree. Bald on bald violence should not be tolerated. That was not a good moment for Dan Hurley. He should have called the guy fat or loser or something, but not bald because Dan's bald. Caller, go ahead.
Hey, Stephen Greenville.
Hey,
Long
Steve, what's
time,
up,
no
man?
talk.
Yes, sir.
Hey, let me ask you something. You said the other day about how Trump has changed. Has he changed, or have we just gotten used to how he behaves?
No, well, maybe changed is the wrong word. I think he's a different president this time because I think he came in with a plan. I think he was more prepared. I think now he knows kind of how that works. And I think he's being, whether you agree with what he's doing or not, and I agree with some of it, I disagree with some of it, whether you agree with it or not, he's far more efficient right now. I mean, if he were a basketball,
he knows where the bodies are buried.
Yeah, if he were a basketball player right now, you would be talking about his shot efficiency. He's not just out there firing up threes all over the place. It's more strategic as to where he's taking his shots on the floor.
All right. The last thing, you saw where his lawsuit against the Pulitzer got upheld.
No, I didn't. I can't keep up with it. I mean, frankly, on days like today when I've been as busy as I've been, and I don't even – I saw where Kennedy got confirmed. Seems like somebody else, Tulsi Gabbard, maybe got confirmed. I can't keep up with exactly what's happened. And I literally did not turn the TVs on until I started the show. So I don't even know.
Well, there was a motion to dismiss. The judge said Trump had met the burden of proof to move forward.
Oh.
So, last thing. You talked about when what's the basketball coach's name? Beard?
Yeah, Chris Beard. Mm-hmm.
When he gets asked about what happened in Texas, like you said, somebody's going to ask.
Yeah.
I would pull a playbook from Trump, what Trump did this week. Who do you work for? Huh, didn't know they still exist. Next question.
Yeah, I suspect that he's just going to do the I'm not talking about that, and that's a chapter of my life that's closed, and I'm at Ole Miss, blah, 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 blah. I don't – I mean, it might not come. It might not happen. Listen, the media's changed like so much now. I mean, there was this big fear at the time when Ole Miss hired him that it was going to be this, cavalcade of negative publicity, and it just didn't happen. It really didn't. There was a few little stories and stuff, maybe 10% of coverage, if that, and it's completely gone away. I mean, even when Ole Miss played Texas this year, and I know it helped for the story not happening that the game was in Oxford and not in Austin, but even the Texas media didn't get into it. It just everybody's like moved on. So, they're going to make the tournament. They're going to go to the tournament, and they're going to have the media day the day before the first round, so either on a Wednesday or Thursday. And somebody will ask about it. I think it'll be a national person, and they'll ask about it, and it won't have any traction. Nobody else is going to be writing about it or talking about it, and that'll be, if I'm right, If I'm right, I mean, unless something else happens involving him personally somewhere down the road, I think that will be the absolute end of it.
Well, I'm always amazed at what the media chooses to focus on. Like last week, you had an NBA player get charged with gambling on basketball, and you had the players at Temple get charged on gambling on basketball. And no cheap resources.
Yeah, I don't know why that is. Obviously I'm not on either one of those beats, and so I don't know exactly the details. Maybe there's a reason that it didn't get a lot of publicity, but you're right, it did seem to stay awfully calm. I can tell you in NBA circles, the NBA is known to sort of strong arm media, that if you skew negative, you pay for it. And a lot of that media is pretty Pollyanna. Not all of them. A lot of them are really good. And there's a lot of people that dig in and write stuff and get critical. But for the most part, most media covering the NBA are they wear soft gloves because they know that the NBA will punch back.
Huh. Well, all right, Neal. I'm gonna let you go. Talk to you later.
All right, thanks, Steve.
Bye.
Let's see. I said I'll catch up as we get calls. I'll take calls and we can talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. Yeah, Austin, I can't comment on that. I mean, it's something Chase doesn't want to talk about. I'm obviously willing to talk about politics quite a bit. It doesn't bother me. I enjoy them. I think they're interesting. In another world, I probably would have gotten into political media. I think I would have really enjoyed it. But I mean, that's certainly his prerogative. Grind says, thoughts on Florida State potentially pulling their lawsuit against the ACC because they don't believe they can win. Locked in until 2036 feels like a death sentence. Yeah, I've not heard that. That would be a death sentence. It's obviously 11 years. It's another decade at numbers that are nowhere close to even. You have Big Ten numbers, SEC numbers that are basically the same, and then this fall off a giant cliff to where the ACC is. I don't know how, if you're Florida State, you could just justify throwing the towel in on a lawsuit. It just seems like you would have to fight that as publicly as you had to. You would just you would have to scream into the abyss until you either completely lost energy on it or until the ACC said, you know what, you're creating so much negative publicity that we're just going to let you out. I don't know how that works. I'm not involved in it, but that is a lot. That is a lot of money that they're leaving on the table in an era when even the Big Ten and SEC schools behind the scenes are panicked about money. And that's the word. They're panicked about it. They're having to come up with $22 million of rev share. They don't know if that's going to be enough. They don't know how fans are going to react to rising prices. And that's at schools that have the money to pull it off. These other schools don't. And I mean, Florida State probably does, but by not being in one of those two leagues, the amount of money that they're losing over a 10-year period is staggering. It's a staggering number. Patino trying to pitch an ACC Big East Super Conference in basketball. I mean, that's fine. The problem is that's just not where your money is. That's not where your big TV contract comes from. It's great. It's great for people that love college basketball. It's good leagues, good rivalries, probably get some good ratings. Fans would like it. That's good. Good that we do something for fans. But that's not paying the bills. That's not changing the mood ring at Florida State. I'll tell you that. That's not changing anything in Tallahassee or Clemson or Chapel Hill. It's just not changing anything. When it might be a feel good, but when they sit in the meeting room in those places and look at the bottom line, that's not going to do anything to soothe feelings whatsoever. I told you we'd talk about SEC basketball this weekend, coming off of the midweek. A lot of really good games. If you're hanging around on Saturday waiting for Ole Miss to get started at 5 o'clock, there's plenty to watch. Arkansas and Texas A&M get started in College Station at 11 on ESPN. Texas A&M playing their way at 19-5, 8-3 in the league. They're playing their way into that 2-seed conversation pretty fast. All of their metrics are great. Their net's like a 12 or a 13. Arkansas has really improved. They have those 2 god-awful losses on their schedule at LSU. And then the one that really kind of kills them is at home against Oklahoma. You change those 2 games for them, and they're 6-5 in the league, and they'd be 17-7 overall, and they'd be great. But instead, they're 15-9, 4-7. It's a big opportunity for them. I don't think it's a must-win game. I think if you look at Arkansas metrically, if they got to 7 SEC wins, they might have to win 1 in Nashville, but I think they'd have a real shot to make the tournament. The end of their season is not completely disfavorable, so a big opportunity for them. At noon on SEC Network, Vanderbilt goes to Tennessee. Tennessee looking to avenge the loss in Nashville. I suspect they will. Vanderbilt 5-6 in the league. A win over Tennessee obviously would just punch their ticket. They would feel incredibly good about things. And Tennessee, even though they've lost 5 SEC games, they still have a net that would have them in the 2-seed conversation. So big opportunity for Vandy. A game Tennessee probably needs to win. A game that Georgia must win at 2:30 on the SEC Network. Georgia plays Missouri. Missouri 7-4 in the league, 18-6 overall. Their net's right around where Ole Miss's is, right around that 20 mark. They're looking great. They're in great shape for the tournament for seeding purposes. Georgia 16-9, 4-8 in the league. They've got a 35 net. At some point, got to win games. This is one I think Georgia doesn't have to win, but, man, they feel a lot better about life if they won this one. There's a big difference between 5-8 and 4-9 coming off of a home game against Mizzou, and a win would help them. Then, of course, the game that will be talked about big time nationally, number 1 versus number 2. Got Auburn at Alabama. Auburn 22-2 overall, 10-1 in the SEC. A phenomenal resume, 13 quad 1 wins. Get a chance for 14 against Bama. Bama 21-3, 10-1 in the SEC. The only loss at home to Ole Miss in early January. Since then, Alabama has just rolled off win after win after win. Been tested a few times, but they've won games, and it's an opportunity for them against Auburn, the first of 2 meetings between those 2 teams. And then 5 o'clock in Oxford at the Pavilion, it's Mississippi State and Ole Miss. Mississippi State 17-7 overall, 5-6 in the SEC. Ole Miss, after the win on Wednesday night at South Carolina, is 19-6, 8-4 in the SEC. In terms of who needs this game the most, it's Mississippi State. In terms of who wants this game the most, I got to think Ole Miss really wants this one after losing in overtime in Starkville last month. A win for Ole Miss just completely changes the conversation. It would be, I think, their 6th quad 1 win. It would get them to 20 wins on February the 15th. It would wrap up a 500 SEC record at worst. I think they've wrapped up the tournament already. I think starting Saturday, they're playing for seed lines. And if Ole Miss were to beat State, I think Ole Miss starts getting into that 4-seed conversation. Their net going into the game as of this morning, I think, was 21. So it's in that ballpark. A win over State probably bumps them into the top 20 in net. They still have Oklahoma at home. They still have at Vanderbilt. Really, I think if you look at Ole Miss's schedule the rest of the way, the only 2 games that you look at and go, that's almost certainly a loss is at Auburn and at Florida. Florida at the end of the season would be very difficult. Not a good matchup at all for Ole Miss. Other than that, even Tennessee at home, those are winnable games. Not saying they will win them. Have to play really, really well, but those are all winnable games for Ole Miss. So big game for both teams. Mississippi State 5-6 in the league. They're in good shape metrically. Their net's like 27, 28. They're in good shape, but they've scuffled lately. Interesting game for them to watch involving them. LSU and Oklahoma, also 5 o'clock on SEC Network. Simply put, this is a must-win game for the Sooners. 16-8, 3-8 in the SEC. There's no world in which Oklahoma makes the tournament after losing to LSU. If they're going to fix things, it starts now. It starts with beating LSU at home. LSU 12-12, 1-10 in the league after losing at Arkansas on Wednesday night. Kentucky is at Texas, 7 o'clock on ESPN. It's an interesting game. Kentucky 6-5 in the league after beating Tennessee the other night. Texas 4-8 in the league, 15-10 overall. Lost in Nashville the other night. The metrics are pretty good for them, but they gotta get some W's. I won't call this a must-win games for the Longhorns, but it's close. And then the nightcap, 7:30 on SEC Network. It's South Carolina, still winless in the league. Heading to Florida, the Gators coming off back-to-back road wins at Auburn, at Mississippi State. They're now 21-3, 8-3 in the SEC. Got good news. Alex Condon's ankle injury, not considered to be serious. Probably miss a week or two, but back in plenty of time for the postseason, and it did not look good when it happened in Starkville, so that's good news for them. That's not a particularly meaningful basketball game. If you just want a basketball game to watch, you can watch it, but it doesn't have a hell of a lot of meaning attached to it. Phone lines open. If you guys want to call. This is one of those nights where this show will probably go about as long as you guys want this show to go. One thing I did have, I've got it queued up in case you guys want to check it out at some point. I did load Chris Beard's press conference from last night in Columbia up in here. I can run it in a little bit if you guys are interested. I thought he said some pretty interesting things. He's just a sharp guy, and he knew that game last night was going to be a challenge, and it was. Grind is SEC going west. I think so. I don't think the SEC right this very moment has a ton of appetite for expansion. I think they want to see what this new TV contract looks like, what this feels like. I think they want to see what the playoffs look like. Obviously, all the breakaway talk. I think there's a lot of that going on. I think there's a lot of that going on. Probably with the Big Ten, too. I mean, everybody would take Notre Dame right now if they wanted to join. North Carolina, if they could find a way out. But I think for the most part, everybody is kind of in a little bit of a holding pattern. There is so much uncertainty in college athletics because of the money, because of the lawsuits, because of just not knowing exactly where everything's going, that I don't know that anybody wants to add more uncertainty to their plate right now. Their plates are pretty full. So I would think they're going to be really careful with that. I need to pull it up. I need to pull up Lenardi's latest bracket. Let me see if I can find that. Because some of this is kind of starting to get pretty interesting with the projections. It's a big story about Penny Hardaway, by the way, season they've had. They've had a really big year at Memphis. We talked about this with Jeffrey this morning. They scheduled very aggressively at the beginning of the year, and it has begun to pay off for them. They're playing well. They're in great shape. I think he's completely silenced that hot seat talk with them. I'm looking for the bracket as I stall here. See if I can find it. Lenardi, Bracketology. seeing if he's updated it since the last couple of days. All right, on the last, so this was as of 2 days ago. You've seen most of this. Top overall seeds, Auburn. First team out, Arkansas. Obviously a win for Arkansas in College Station's just a season changer for them. Last team in is BYU. Ole Miss has a win over BYU. He still has Oklahoma in the tournaments. This was before Oklahoma just got lambasted at Missouri. He's got Texas in. He's got Vanderbilt in. He's got Georgia in. First four out, Arkansas, VCU, North Carolina, SMU. Next four out, Pitt, Xavier, UC San Diego, Boise State. He's got Little Rock and American playing in a play-in game. Georgia and San Diego State playing in a play-in game. Wake Forest, BYU, Merrimack, and Omaha. He's got Auburn as a 1 seed in the South. Just looking at SEC and other interesting teams. He's got Memphis. Ole Miss lost to Memphis in December. He's got Memphis as a 5 in the South bracket. Ironically, playing in Seattle, which is not South, but it is what it is. Georgia, as I mentioned, is on that 11 line. Missouri is a 7, playing Nebraska in this bracket. Missouri would play Nebraska, and if it won, it would almost certainly play Houston in this bracket, which would be a challenge. In the West, he's got Tennessee as a 1 seed. Tennessee is a 1. Ole Miss as a 5, matched up against McNeese. The irony there would be rich. Ole Miss, McNeese would play the winner of Wisconsin-Akron, so potentially a Ole Miss-Wisconsin NCAA tournament rematch from back in the day. He's got Oklahoma as a 10 seed. That feels wrong to me. Texas A&M as a 2. I mentioned them being on the 2 lines. Got Texas A&M as a 2 playing Norfolk State. In the Midwest, he's got Alabama as a 1 seed, which is obviously right. Today, both Alabama and Auburn are locks for 1s. They'd have to just fall off. He's got, hold on, caller. I think it's Grind. I'll get to you right just 1 second. He's got Vanderbilt as an 11, playing Illinois in a 6-11 game. He's got Mississippi State as a 7, playing Utah State in a 7-10 game, matched up with Purdue on the other side. He's got Duke as a 1 seed, which is obviously they would be today. Kentucky as a 4, playing Samford, matched up with potentially playing Michigan in a 4-5 game. He's got Texas as a 10, playing Louisville, and Florida as a 2, playing Towson in Cleveland. Is this Grind?
Yo, it's Grind. Yes, sir.
My man, how are you, sir?
Holding in, man. How about you, man?
Man, I'm good.
That's good. That's good. He has Tennessee as a 1 still?
Got Tennessee as a 1, and, see, you and I had this conversation, I think, last week. This is what I'm interested in. I'm really interested in the net number and how important it is. If you look at net, Tennessee's got such a resume, and yeah, they've got some losses, but the losses aren't bad, and they've got a bunch of wins. It's like Saturday, Auburn could lose to Alabama. It doesn't matter at all. Auburn's got such a strong resume.
Yeah.
They're going to be a 1. Alabama's got a great resume. I think they're going to be a 1. I mean, I think there's a real chance it's 3 SEC teams and Duke as the 1 seeds.
I'll say this because I don't know. Like, I agree with you, man, because should 13 SEC teams get into the league, into the tournament? Yes. Will they do it? If Tennessee is a 1 seed, I don't know how you don't get 13 in.
Oh, I agree.
I don't know.
If I'm Arkansas, Vanderbilt, those teams, Georgia, on Selection Sunday, and they tell me that the 4 1s are Duke, Alabama, Auburn, and either Tennessee or Florida, I'm going, we're in. We made it.
Yeah.
Probably going to Dayton. Probably getting shipped someplace, but we're in. It's math. You've got to get to 68. And if you go look around the country, some of these leagues that normally get 4 are going to get 2. Some of the leagues that normally got 2 are just going to get 1. Some of the leagues that used to get 8, ACC says hello, are going to get 3, 4 bids. I mean, let's see. Yeah, he did so he does a conference breakdown. So here we go. SEC gets 13. Big 10 gets 10. Big 12 gets 8. ACC, there was a year not long ago when the ACC got 10 bids. Got ACC getting 4.
Yeah.
He's got the Big East getting 4.
4 out of 18 teams?
Yeah, but I mean, look at the net. I mean, I'll pull it up.
That league is dying.
But
that league is done.
The Mountain West used to get 5 or 6 bids. They're going to get 3. The West Coast Conference is just getting the 2. Not 3, not 4, 2. So if you do the math on that, you got to get to 68 somehow. I mean, they're not going to field a bracket with 61 teams. They're going to field a bracket with 68 teams.
Yeah, true. You're correct. You're right about that. You're 100% right. And maybe it's because I listen to, the talking heads too much. But the narrative on college basketball is shifting. Because I know for certain if the ACC or Big East was this dominant in college basketball, it would be shoved down our throats from the mountains high, from everybody. Everybody would say, it would be every day, constant, nonstop. Look at Duke, look at Carolina, look at Syracuse, look at Louisville.
Yep.
And it's only because we watch, like most of these games that the SEC is playing basketball on, they're on ESPN, they're on the SEC network. So, of course, you're going to have guys that are pumping up the league. So, I just don't want SEC fans to get the idea that, hey, man, every time I turn on the game, the commentators are talking about how good the league is. When if you go outside of the SEC bubble, I mean, you've got people talking about, hey, St. John's is the best story in college basketball, or, yada, yada, yada. And I'm like, guys, you're starting to stray away a little bit to where if the ACC were to quote-unquote be this best league and then they only got 11 teams in, you would be talking about how they got screwed.
Yes.
But it seems as if that narrative is going to change a little bit, and that's what kind of worries me a little bit.
Well, I mean, the thing is, November and December happened, and it just did. I mean, the league has so many good wins. Like, go through the SEC teams and look for like quad 3 and quad 4 losses. They basically don't exist.
Yeah,
I mean, they basically
don't
exist. And so if you go back to the last couple of years when what matters to the committee, when whoever the committee chair is, he does the interview afterwards, and he always talks about, quad 1 and scheduling, and we want to reward scheduling, and we want to reward teams that played on neutral sites and teams that went on the road. Well, guess what? Everybody in the SEC did it. Everybody. Hell, South Carolina beat Clemson.
Yeah, they beat Clemson. Which is crazy.
I mean, you got. I'm thinking of. I'm using these teams because
Georgia beat St. John's.
Georgia Arkansas beat Michigan. You've got all these games where the bottom of the league won big games. That's before you even talk about like what Auburn did, what Alabama did, what Missouri did. Ole Miss beat BYU.
Yeah.
I mean, Mississippi State won some games. You've got Florida with big wins. Before you even talk about those teams, talk about the bottom of the league. Look at the games at the bottom of the teams at the bottom of the league won in league play, and even at the games that the teams at the bottom of the league lost. Like Arkansas lost to Illinois, Ole Miss lost to Purdue by a single bucket. And then you get into like the control time and all that stuff. There just weren't many blowout. Mississippi State went to Memphis and won big.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just a lot. And there's just not many. There aren't many warts, except for the fact that the league is stunningly 500 since league play started. It's wild.
I mean, who saw that coming?
I mean, well, the NBA's 500 so far this year. It's crazy. I mean, it's really wild how NFL just had a season where they went 500. It's become mediocrity's taking over sports.
the reason I had brought up the softball tournament is because I've never I don't even know if they have a softball, tournament selection show or whatnot. But in my honest opinion, I've never been in a room, which I know it would probably irritate you and Chase, but I think the chat, we would love if you guys would go to like one of those, like, I guess, selection, one of those selection things that they let the people go through where you do like a mock selection for the teams.
Yeah.
And just see what the actual process is like, and you guys come back and tell us and everything.
They'd kick me out because I would be in there. I would be way too practical. I would be way too pragmatic for that room.
It sounds like they would have to give you some more shrimp cocktails, my guy. It sounds like they would have to load you up.
I mean, I do like a good shrimp cocktail, and listen, I've been there, and it's the shrimp cocktail's magnificent. I give it credit. It is fantastic. I get the allure. Not enough to sell my soul necessarily, but I get it. I get it 100%.
But I mean, the thing I'm getting at is because, and it's the antithesis in college football. Because in softball, when Chase was just bringing up the numbers, to me, it sounds like they see the thing as if nobody's gonna watch it. They're just like, well, hell, let's just put the best teams in. Ain't nobody gonna watch the damn thing anyway. And if they were to do that in all the other sports, I think everybody would be happy. If you see it as if no one's gonna watch, I think you would be happy. I think you will come out with the right answers, quote unquote.
Yeah, but I mean, they're gonna catch hell if they only give the SEC like 11 bids and you leave out 2 SEC teams in that scenario with net in the 30s who played the schedule, who got wins, who didn't schedule a collection of cupcakes. I mean, Auburn's played, 2 quad 4 games? 2.
Yes, 2.
I mean, so the message you would be sending to the league at that point and to everybody, to the Big Ten also, is, hey, listen, I know what we said, but it's not really true. There's no reason for you guys to really schedule these games. There's no reason for Auburn to go to Duke. Auburn didn't have to go to Duke.
No, didn't have to play that game at all.
You know when you schedule that game that, hey, there's a chance.
Honestly, when I think about it, the SEC-ACC challenge probably helped the ACC more this year. Because if you didn't have the game against all the great net teams, I mean,
of course. 100%. I mean, that's the one thing on the out of this. If I were the SEC, I would look at the Big Ten and go, "Hey, fellas, we ought to go ahead and do this thing. Let's do an SEC Big Ten challenge. Let's just go ahead and prop each other up a little more. Let's get Auburn, Illinois, and Alabama, Wisconsin, and get those kinds of games." We'll just prop each other's net up a little bit more. We'll just make this thing even harder for them.
Boy, you talking about the folks in Tallahassee tripping out then? Because I mean, I've heard, because if it comes from Jeff Cameron, I take it with a little more grain of salt, because I think he's a little plugged in to FSU, and he was very disappointed into what he thinks the future of FSU football is like, because from his opinion, he believes they're dropping the lawsuit on the ACC.
Because he doesn't think they can win it, or because they don't think they can win it.
Yeah, they don't think they can win it, and it's just going to be, because I mean the lawyers that they're using have to get paid, and so it just seems as if they're basically kind of at a dead end, and it's as if when they talk, it's as if they think that the SEC folks think the FSU has some type of reference that just, well, you know what, it doesn't matter what the deal is, we'll pay it for FSU, and I'm like, I'm not sure if that's the case. Because basically it seems as if they're going to try to use the SEC to make the Big Ten come and get them. From what I'm kind of picking up. It's like, hey, we're going to say, we're kind of trying to make it seem like the SEC is going to come get us, so then the Big Ten gives us an offer, and now we're good to go.
Yeah, I'll repeat what I've heard for years, which is the SEC has no interest in Florida State. None.
When the whole thing hits the fan, it's going to be glorious to watch. The final round of musical chairs in college athletics is going to be something to see.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I guess
because especially if you, I mean, and look, not to get into this conversation because I'll have to start lighting matches in here and burn my hands. But the whole breakaway thing that everyone says is going to happen, and it's smart people who are very informed who say it's going to happen. Yet I just don't really understand how it happens, how you pull that off. But there's a lot. I'm with you. I'd love to. I'm not in a hurry to wish my life away, but if you promise, me I could come back to this point and just slow down, I wouldn't mind a quick little trip into the future 10 years just to see what it looks like, because I don't think it's going to look like what it looks like right now.
Agree. And I guess I'm going to get these comments from you off the air because I'm going to hang up after I ask you this. I know you and Jeffrey this morning were talking about Oklahoma and Porter Moser out there. That's his name, right? I'm not, disrespecting him. Okay.
Porter Moser.
Yeah. If they let's say they crash and burn these last final games and don't make the tournament, I'm just not sure, because I was thinking about this with their football program as well. Where would you truly rank the attractiveness of OU football being the head coach and OU basketball being the head coach now that because I mean in the Big 12, I think those were probably pretty damn good jobs, and they're still damn good jobs now because of what they pay. But if you're going to put the same expectations, I'm just curious. I want to get your opinion on the Oklahoma football and basketball job, and your thoughts about that. And like I say, I want to appreciate you taking my call, man, and thank you for doing this for us.
All right, thanks, Grind.
All right.
You can sit down. You're good. Oh, okay. About to be trash talk in our house. The U.S. is about to play Finland in hockey. It's about to get ugly here. Oklahoma football, I still think it's a great job, but obviously this was sobering. Here's the thing, though, Grind. I think based on conversations that I had this summer at SEC Media Days in Dallas, Oklahoma expected to be humbled. They knew they were behind. They knew 2 years ago. I think Eddie Radosevich said this on MPW Digital. They knew a couple of years ago they were in no hurry for everything to speed up because they knew they weren't. Hey, caller, I'll get to you just 1 second. They knew that they weren't quite ready. So I think they probably have a pretty good idea of how to at least get into the middle of the pack in the SEC, which is just going to be a brutal middle of the pack, which is probably going to be basically the whole damn league. By the time rev share goes around, I think there's going to be so much parity in SEC football, it's going to shock people. And then in basketball, hey, man, I just don't know what kind of job that is. I don't really know enough about. I've never been in their arena or anything. I know people care about it there. And in the Big 12, they were a like bottom of the top tier power. I think they're going to have a hard time doing that in basketball in this league. But again, you get into all the questions about rev share and how much extra NIL you have and how you emphasize one sport over another. And there's a lot of those questions. And I can't pretend to be dialed in enough on Oklahoma to be an authority on that. Hey, caller, who do we have?
Hey, Neal, it's Austin.
Hey, Austin, what's up, man?
Not much, man. How you doing?
I'm good. Just noticed this USA Finland thing, and Aka's from Finland, so this there'll probably be some trash talk in the house in a minute, even though it's hockey and I have no idea.
Tell him to sit close to the mic. We kind of want to hear that on the show. I know I do, at least.
Yeah,
I think we all like that.
He just stepped into the studio, so I don't know if he knows he's going to be on. You want to be on screen? Are you good?
Sure.
All right.
Oh man. Hey, listen. I just kind of wanted to follow up on the point Grind was making, and I wanted to ask you this. Correct me if I'm wrong. The SEC signed their deal with Disney, and it goes through like the middle of 2030, like something, right? Like I know it's got like what 7-8 years left on the deal.
I think so.
Got you. The reason why I'm asking is because with the shift to streaming that's happening right now,
Yeah.
like, with like Amazon Prime getting the NFL and the NBA and NASCAR and stuff like that. When do you think it's number one, if you think it's a good idea, tell me what you think about it. And number two, could you see the Southeastern Conference on Amazon like in the next few years? Like, I know that they've got exclusive rights with Disney, but I just think it's kind of crazy how there's no big conference that's kind of taking the leap of putting some of their games on like a streaming service. Like, the fact that we're with Disney and we're not putting it on like Disney Plus is kind of crazy to me. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, no, I kind of agree with you because, again, I always talk about this, like, as Aka sits here, he's 17, Carson's 18, my girls are in their early 20s. They don't consume media the way that we did a generation ago. Everything is streamed with them. I mean, they almost would seemingly prefer to, because of their lifestyle, I think they almost prefer to watch snippets on their phones as opposed to sitting down and watching, a game on a big screen. That's just my observation. I could be completely wrong. I'm not 17 years old or 18 years old, but that's what it kind of seems like. So yeah, I mean, I think there's a reason that the NFL and certainly with the possible exception of the English Premier League, right? They're the most powerful sports league in the world. And if you look at the English Premier League and like the Champions League and stuff, they have very active streaming contracts. Paramount Plus, Peacock. I'm sure if I was in Europe, there would be some streaming services that I'm not referencing. But, I mean, just even here in the States, that's very powerful. And so, yeah, I think, yes, to answer your question really long form, yeah, the SEC, the Big Ten, those are conversations that they're having in their offices every day about how do we maximize our audience with on streaming platforms. And I agree with you. The fact that the SEC, their streaming platform is ESPN, which is a horrific streaming platform.
It's really bad.
It's horrible. It's horrible. I don't even know what does the Big Ten use? I don't even know.
They kind of do their own thing, like between NBC and CBS. Like, they'll do Peacock if it's on NBC. They'll do Paramount Plus if it's CBS.
So it's not.
If it's Fox.
So it's not particularly. It's not particularly uniform. Yeah. I would think that. Yeah. So to answer your question, yes, I'm sure they would love to find a way to like have a premier game that you could put on an Amazon or whatnot and see what kind of numbers that drove.
I just think it's a matter of time, and I understand why the push to stay on linear TV was so important for them, because let's face it, without live sports, linear TV's dying. I think that's not exactly news to anybody, but my point I'm trying to make to go off what Ryan was saying, and the reason I even brought it up in the first place, is I just think the Big Ten has a better media deal than the SEC top to bottom. I know they're across multiple different broadcasters, but I just think the ESPN, Disney, ABC, whatever you want to call it, I just think they're not as good for the SEC long term as what the Big Ten has, because there have been times, and I think the whole SMU getting in the playoff thing kind of was the icing on the cake for this argument for me. Like, and the question I'm going to pose to you is this: why is the league not publicly, like, I know Kirby Smart clowned Greg Sankey on the podium for the SEC title game, and we all remember that, but Greg Sankey not getting more pushback for signing the bad media deal that he did? Like, it's not bad because obviously their revenue is crazy, but you're in bed with a media partner that, to be honest with you, really doesn't care about you. But it feels like Fox, CBS, and NBC, they're all in on the Big Ten.
Yeah.
And
so my question would be, before I could just attack Sankey on this, the question would be, what alternative did he have? How different were the numbers? Because I know that there was a time when they really tried to go down the road and continue their relationship with CBS, and CBS just did not budge off the money at all. So I think the money between the two was remarkably different.
that makes sense. I know for a fact that the big schools get more on their media deal right now than we do in the SEC first. But that being said, like, I guarantee the folks at CBS, I mean, you could just see the ratings that kind of speak for themselves. I'm pretty sure they're kind of kicking themselves for the decision they made.
Oh yeah, I mean the SEC got the massive ratings. I mean compared to the Big Ten, at least last season. I don't envy the job that Sankey has. I know it's a glamorous job and stuff, but that's a difficult job that is full of a lot of really hard decisions, and trying to satisfy 16 schools that are not all exactly the same at one time is borderline impossible.
I agree with that. And I'm not exactly saying that it was all his fault. I'm just saying that, like, to me, like, the fact that, and I still can't get over that the playoff committee put SMU in over Alabama. I just think that's hilarious in hindsight, even more in hindsight than it was in the moment. But that being said, like, why that wasn't the catalyst of the spark and kind of get most of the league kind of chirping about, hey, this media deal is not the best for us, because let's face it, let's call it what it is. You probably don't remember, but the night of the ACC championship game between Clemson and SMU, they had media openly pushing, and again, I understand it was the ACC title game, but this is your marquee, like the SEC is like ESPN's like biggest ratings getter period outside of maybe Monday Night Football. And you had their media team openly begging for SMU to get in the playoff over Alabama. When I get the ACC's a partner too, but they're like giving peanuts as far as revenue is concerned.
There's no question about that. There's no doubt. And listen, behind the scenes, I'm sure there were a lot of really pissed off people. Like
when I saw that,
I'm interested. I'm really interested at Media Days in July, and I guess it's in Atlanta this year. I think there's going to be a lot of aggression from coaches in Destin in May. I think there's going to be a lot of aggression from ADs and coaches, and then I think there's going to be I think you're going to see a pretty aggressive us against the world message that comes out of SEC Media Days in July. I don't think it's going to be as warm and fuzzy as it typically is from the people who stand on the podium.
And I don't think it should be.
No,
I think we deserve.
Absolutely not. I mean, but look, I said this. I said this. I said this to a couple of SEC coaches, including one that you probably can guess. I asked, why'd you guys agree to this? Because you agreed to this system. And then it bites you in the ass in a way that was very predictable. And then everybody's like, this isn't right. But by the time you started bitching about it not being right, it was done. And there is an anti-SEC sentiment around the country. You're going to see it, like Grind was pointing out. You're going to see it in March when it's tournament time. And God almighty, if 13 SEC teams make the tournament, in that first round, when 4 or 5 of them lose, which is probably inevitable, the spin on those losses is going to be absolutely absurd. It's why, if you are an SEC fan, as much as you are so inclined as a person to want the league to be happy when Mississippi State loses in the first round or Arkansas loses in the first round or whatnot, it's really in your best interest for as many of those teams to make the second, third rounds as possible.
Oh, I 100% agree. And I'll leave on this, and I'll just kind of pose a question, and I'll listen off the air. But to go off what Ryan was just talking about, in your opinion, and you can go more long form or short form on this. Maybe it just depends on whatever you think. Why is it that so much of mainstream college sports media just can't stand the SEC? Like I understand, like, the short-term answer is obvious, like they won for so long and people got sick of them, but like it almost feels like there's something deeper there, because it's political.
It's cultural. It's they view the SEC as having an unfair advantage. back in the day as cheating. Now it's, well, that they have the best rosters money can buy. All of those things. It's just, and most of the national media aren't from the South, and so they attack it. I mean, it's really that simple, and it's why they championed the last couple of years when SEC teams didn't play for the title. They loved
Agreed.
that. They loved that. I mean, it was pretty obvious. It's why, and Grind's right. March will be SEC versus the world. He's exactly right. I'm curious to see whether enough fans can put their emotions aside and just sort of go, no, you know what? I hope 11 SEC teams make the Sweet 16. As much as nobody wants to listen to their rival fans chirp at work or whatnot. In terms of the future, kind of near future of the league on stuff, you need the league. You need the league to win.
Oh yeah, if you told me right now that 3 or 4 SEC teams were in the Elite Eight, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, it would be justification for the league. The worst thing that can happen is a really bad tournament performance across the board.
I agree. Well, listen, man, I appreciate you. I really do. I'm gonna keep listening to the show. Appreciate all the content y'all provide.
Thanks for the call. Appreciate it.
Thank you, man.
All right, Aiko, what is this? What are we doing? Is this a big fight in our house tonight? How important is this? What's going on? U.S. versus Finland. I mean, is this? Are we gonna come to blows tonight over it? What is this game? What are we doing? What is Four Nations? What is this?
Well, from what I've understood, it's really just like a show from the NHL for the 4 biggest nations in the NHL, which are Canada, USA, and Finland.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't think this game means that much. So there's like four teams, like I already said, and I think 2 of the best teams go to the final. So when Finland will be there, and I don't know, probably Canada, y'all not that great.
Okay.
No, I'm joking. Whoever Finland faces in the final, that'll be a big game, and I'll be more mad about that one. We might exchange some punches, but
okay, all right.
But the game we watched, the U21 World Cup final, that was definitely more important.
Okay. And who won that game again?
I'm not sure.
It wasn't Finland, though, right?
So
listen, if it wasn't Finland, it was probably the United States. God, we're beating you guys in hockey now. I mean, that's got to suck.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean,
because that's like our 8th sport or something.
It feels like
we take all the people who aren't good enough to do anything and then we just see which 10 of them can skate and we put them on the hockey team.
They'll have like NFL, and then it's NHL. It's like our 2nd sport. In Finland, it's
That's not true at all.
It's our 5th sport, maybe.
All right, so you've been through an entire American football season, college and pro. I know you went to some games.
I did.
You went to a Super Bowl party last week. What's your observation of American football culture?
Well, it's interesting. I feel like NHL, it's more professional, but people are like less into it from what I've seen. Like I really only know one family that is like a huge NHL fan. No,
NFL.
NFL.
Yeah, I knew what you meant.
NFL fans, and they were Chiefs fans, so I don't know how they took the loss. It was quite brutal. I was watching the game. I'm at the point where I understand like everything about football, so I really enjoyed the Super Bowl. I always like cheer for the underdogs, so I was cheering for the Eagles, but at the end of the day, I was really just hoping for a good game, so it was kind of boring.
Yeah, you didn't get a good game.
Yeah, Eagles just blew them out of the water. But
what was your thought on the halftime show? Were you big on Kendrick Lamar?
Well, I like Kendrick Lamar, but
Is he big in Finland?
I would say so. Yeah, he's definitely known, but I would say it was a bit of a letdown. I did not like it too much. Like I feel like he let me down a little bit. I didn't like the fact he was just constantly I thought it was kind of childish the way he was constantly throwing shots at Drake because they have like their rap feud or whatever, and he was just constantly one after another just firing shots at him, and I thought like the whole thing was kind of over. So him dragging it kind of just wasn't I thought like him making a better show would have been better than just throwing shots at Drake, which some people did find entertaining, but me personally, I didn't.
Yeah, I was completely. I didn't know about the feud, and so I was confused, and it was completely out of my wheelhouse.
Yeah, well, it was big when it first happened, but I thought it was like pretty much over. But I guess he's still mad at him. But yeah, But I really enjoyed the college season.
You kind of became an Ole Miss fan.
I did, yeah. After the Georgia game, I kind of did. I'll admit it. After the Georgia game, that got me into college football. But we played like 2 games after the Georgia game when we lost to Florida.
Yeah, the next one.
Yeah, and we beat Mississippi State.
Yeah,
that was kind of.
Did you go to the Mississippi State game?
Ooh, I did. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I did. Yeah, it was a good experiment.
So you went to what, 3 or 4 games?
Yeah, something like I could not tell you the teams we played, but I know I went to a couple. But the Mississippi State game, it was so cold. I was just freezing.
It was cold.
I was more focused on like not freezing to death than actually watching the game.
Okay, so you live in Helsinki. So are you surprised? What's been your thought about weather?
So during the summer,
because I tried to warn you before you got here that the heat's gonna be like, Cat, you're not ready for this. So now that you've been through seasons, what are your thoughts?
Well, summer, like the midsummer, is just way too hot. It's like unbelievably hot. It's like if you're from Finland, don't come here during June, July, end of June, like mid-July. You will not enjoy it. It was.
I know. I tried to warn you. It just didn't. There's no way to prepare for it.
Yeah, and you kept telling me it's gonna cool down every week. It's gonna cool down next week. It never did. It never cooled down.
And then it did though. It's cool now. It took 6 months.
Yeah, it took 6 months.
Yeah.
But,
it got cold here though.
Yeah, then it surprised me really.
Because I saw you on the soccer field. You were all bundled up more than most of the American kids.
Yeah, people always ask me like, "Aren't you from Finland? Shouldn't you be like embracing this?" But I always tell them like, I might be more used to, but I'm not immune. Like, I still feel the cold, but I was surprised how cold it gets. Like, when I look on the map and like I see Mississippi is like really close to the equator, I thought it was gonna be warm all year round, like in like some South American countries. But no, it really did get cold, and it snowed like one weekend, and people were afraid that the roads were gonna freeze, but thankfully that didn't happen.
Got to see some sledding though.
Yeah,
got to see a sledding exhibition on that hill.
Yeah, you almost broke every bone in your body.
I got some air. All right, Grind wants to know who's the biggest hip hop star in Finland.
Hip hop star.
Or who's the most popular hip hop person in Finland?
So probably really all the American artists, they're really big. Also in Europe, like everybody knows them. But a Finnish hip hop star.
Or which is the most popular American?
Popular American? Ooh. That's a tough question. I mean, it's really hard to I would say when you look at somebody's popularity here in America, it really matches the popularity in Finland. But we of course have a lot of less people. We're like around 6 million.
But a lot of the big acts go to Helsinki though, right?
Yeah.
No, it's part of like their world tours and stuff.
Well, maybe not world tours, but we usually get some pretty big artists during the summer, like every year. But I haven't gotten the chance to go see one yet. But my parents, they were watching the Coldplay concert this summer. They got 1-day tickets, and my cousins who live up north, they came down to Helsinki and they got 3-day tickets. So they got really the full experience out of it.
Of Coldplay?
Yeah, Coldplay. But I heard it was a great show. I was here actually during it. I would have gone and watched it, but they took me here to almost die of the heat. So I was enjoying the heat while they were enjoying Coldplay.
Yeah.
But I would say a Finnish artist who's really popular, I would say, this guy called Kosti. He's coming up, but...
Kosti,
yeah. But an American artist who's really big, that's a really tough question, actually.
Post Malone? Future?
I would say, probably Drake. He's pretty big. He does all kind of stuff, so that also helps him. But Taylor Swift's, of course, big,
right?
Like among the girls, but I don't really listen to her too much. To be honest,
you're too cool for Taylor Swift.
I wouldn't say I'm too cool. I just really don't enjoy her type of music, the music she produces or makes. But yeah, I mean, I would really say, really side to side, anybody who's popular in America is also known in Finland.
What's been you still got 4 months left. What's been your biggest American takeaway so far? What's your biggest American observation? You got to go through you saw a presidential election.
Mm-hmm.
You saw, I don't want to bias your answer. I'm curious what's the one, has there been one thing about America that surprised you the most?
Surprised me the most. Well, I always say this when people ask me like what's the most different thing about like American Finland is the like mode of transport. Here you need a car to go anywhere. Anywhere out of the neighborhood you need a car. And in Finland we get our driver's license when we're 17. No, when we're 18. So I can't obviously drive. I'm 17. So I've had some struggles with getting a ride sometimes, but I usually work it out pretty well. But definitely like the mode of transport.
Yeah, I mean, there's some cities in the U.S. that probably are like Chicago, New York, D.C., where you can get around. But yeah, like here, there's no.
Yeah, before I came here, my only experience of America was New York. So I was like expecting, there's going to be like some mode of public transport I can use sometimes, but not in Oxford, Mississippi.
All right, so who are these cats? Do you know these people?
They're some great hockey players.
Are these all Finnish people?
Yeah, that's like
Mikko Rantanen.
Yeah, he's really good. Mikko Rantanen.
How do you spell it? Kaipo cake.
You want me to pronounce
it?
Yes. Nikolas Matinpalo. Okay. Esa Lindell, Teuvo Tervanen, Kevin Lankinen.
All right.
Yeah, that's the team.
So why is that? It says Suomi.
Suomi.
What does Suomi mean?
It's Finland in Finnish. Suomi.
Oh. Okay. Yeah. Well, there you go. It makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I rather. I mean, we're like plus 140 underdogs, so it's not a big gap. But I still rate our chances. Like, if I would place money on some game, I would put it on Finland.
So you already know the betting line on this game.
I saw it.
Okay.
No,
I didn't know if you'd researched the betting line on it.
No.
I was gonna start getting worried.
I saw it at the bottom.
You're gonna get in trouble.
Yeah, but I rate our chances. I really hope we win. It would be awesome to beat y'all.
10-1 odds to win the tournament. It's not good. Longest of any team.
I mean, we're always the underdog. Like nobody was expecting us to even make it to the finals in the U21 tournament. We obviously did.
Yeah.
Like Finland is just an underdog nation. Like Sweden, people overlooks us every time while looking at Sweden.
You hate Sweden, don't you?
Oh yeah, I don't know. Like the only thing I really care in like the prelims is that we beat Sweden. It's 15th, so Saturday I think. I just want.
Oh, is that right? That's coming up.
Yeah, I just want them to be Sweden. Then I'm happy. Oh look, he missed. I was gonna say how good of a shot it was.
Yeah, but he missed it. Yeah, so it wasn't a good shot. Just
not a good
sort of typical.
Yeah, but they're just showing the Finns and not the Americans. The Americans are clearly just sitting in their locker room while we're just putting in work, practicing. Do you know where this game's played?
I don't know where it's played. I was curious why I asked you earlier where the game was.
I'm gonna check. I'm not sure.
I don't think it's in the States.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought it was in Finland.
There was like a sign that had a big CNN sign. So at one point I was like, "Well, is that Atlanta?" But it looked really cold, so it didn't look like Atlanta. It looked snowy wherever it was.
Then it might be Tampere, which is the second biggest city in Finland, I think.
Oh, so it's in Finland?
I think it might. Well, let me see. I'm doing my research.
No, you're good. You're good. If anybody wants to call, you can call. We've been 6:30. Probably won't stay much longer.
Is Tyler? Where's he at?
Who?
Tyler Siski.
Oh, we've already done that show.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Let me see. Oh, it's in Canada.
Oh, this game's in Canada?
Montreal.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense.
Yeah, probably does. Bell Center. And they have Canadian officials, so y'all won't rig it.
You don't think we'll cheat it?
Yeah, y'all would take the chance.
Connor wants to know, are there any American dislikes? Are there anything about America Yeah.
I would probably say no. I've really enjoyed my stay so far. I really haven't disliked anything except that Americans who think they're better than Finland in hockey.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Hey, caller, who do we have?
It's Tim and Tupelo.
What's up, Tim?
I have been thinking about this rushing the field after the football games in the court, and I wonder why they couldn't give the visiting team time to get off of the field and then allow the students or whoever to run onto the field.
Yeah, I think if they felt like they could do that, they would. That is the solution. The problem they've got, and you saw it like at the Clemson-Duke basketball game the other night, is that everybody's so excited and it happens so quickly that they don't really have the personnel in place to get the other team off the field or off the court, and you end up having these altercations, and that's what everybody's scared of. They're scared of one of these altercations going really bad. Like it almost happened in Clemson where John Shire, the Duke coach, very clearly was on the cusp of a physical confrontation with some Clemson fans.
Oh, my. Yeah. Well, I had just thought, I mean, it costs them so much money every time they storm the field or the court.
Yeah.
If you could write out the policy and a couple of home games, instead of spending $250,000 on rushing the field, you spend half of that and hire 500 certified police officers for $250 apiece. Spend $125,000 and just get the precedent set. You do it 2 or 3 times, maybe at the most, and make sure everybody knows and understands whatever you have to do advertising wise to get that done. Set a timer on the scoreboard. Give the visiting team time to get off.
Yeah.
People time to lay the field goals down.
See, I think you're on something that on paper sounds really, really good.
Yeah.
And then when you get it in real life and you got to ask yourself, can you really get all those officers? And then, because that's you're taking officers away from other municipalities at that point. And then if you're getting officers that you can't trust, do you really want that many armed people battling a situation like that?
I would have nobody armed. Yeah. There's no way I would put somebody on the field with a gun. No way.
Yeah, I don't. It's where I really feel for the universities on this one. Like, I think back to 2014. Well, I don't go back that far. This year, when the game Aka was talking about a little while ago, when Ole Miss beat Georgia, man, that place, and it was positive. Like the vibe was very positive, but it was pretty obvious with a minute and a half, 2 minutes left that Ole Miss was going to win that game, right? And man, people were jacked. And I mean, that game started at 5:00, and something like that. And so, I mean, there probably had been a couple of beers consumed in the stadium by that point. And
probably
nobody meant any harm, but you weren't keeping those people off the field, and they weren't gonna wait 2 minutes or 3 minutes. They just
or 5 minutes.
And like the Vanderbilt Alabama game, those people, and that's Vanderbilt where they don't even care and there's nobody there, and they, I mean, with the Auburn the kick six game. You think in the heat of that moment, I mean, we can do all the Auburn jokes, and I'm in on them. I love them. But in the heat of that moment, that's such a dramatic moment for them to beat Alabama like that. You think in that moment you're going to get 30,000 people who, no, you're not. They're going to wait 3 minutes for Alabama to get off the field so they can charge it? No. I think it's just one of those things that all they can do is try to kind of beg people, hey, be smart, please wait. But I don't.
Yeah.
And if I'm a security guard, like, what are you going to do? I don't care how many security guards you get. And if
I mean, if people, I just thought I guess I spent too much time thinking that people would actually do right if you ask them to. But.
Yeah. And look, I don't think, to the best of my knowledge, any Georgia players or coaches or administrators or staff or anything, I don't think any of them were accosted or whatever. But you just have in that moment, there's just a lot of emotion, right? They just lost a game. They're upset, or it's kind of one of those things where it's everything's sort of near a boiling point in that moment. So I don't know. I'll be honest. I'm of the opinion that it's kind of much ado about nothing, and that people ought to chill out with it a little bit with all the fines and all that stuff. But Sankey is right on this one, that if they want, if they're serious about this, they're going to have to get their media partners, ESPN and stuff. They're going to have to get them to quit glorifying it all day long.
Right. Yeah.
Like the very first thing you saw on the highlights when Ole Miss beat Georgia in that big game in November was the people storming the field and bringing the goalpost down. And when Vanderbilt won, you saw the highlights of the goalpost being taken down Broadway to the river. I mean, it gets glorified. Now, does that impact the young people to make them want to do it more? I don't know.
It does. If they think they're going to get on SEC shorts and be parodied on there.
Yeah, Aka just shook his head yes. So, that's not a problem. That is not an issue that I would want to be responsible with fixing, because I'm not sure it can be fixed.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an extremely difficult position to be in. All right. Well, I want to tell you, appreciate all your shows. I get to watch and listen to all three of them, or the three main ones. I'll say that. But I hope you enjoy your nickname Scoops. I think it fits you really well for the shows.
I hate it.
But do you? Oh man, I hate that, dude. I'm just gonna tell you right now. I love Siskey and Chase, but you're the common denominator amongst it all, and I think you're just the one that makes it go, and love them all. But
your check is.
I just think it fits.
Appreciate that.
I hear you. All right. Well, man, thanks for doing all that you do and keeping us all enlightened with the writing and the podcast.
Thank you. Appreciate it very much.
Yes, sir. Have a good night.
I'm not going to make you stay in here. A couple questions for you. Ben wants to know, would you recommend to other kids to be exchange students?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, it really for me at least, it was like a really natural change. I'm super social, like naturally. So it was an easy change for me. But if you're the type of person who can survive situations by themselves and is good at making new contacts and like meeting new people, I would definitely suggest yes.
Hey, who do we have?
Yeah, this is Mark from Tupelo.
Hey, Mark.
Got a question for your co-host there. I can't remember his name. I apologize.
His name is Aka.
Okay. I've been a part of helping guide some tourists from the Russia area and different places, and we've always asked them, what's the biggest thing, the biggest difference that you've noticed? And I'm curious his opinion. Without exception, they have always said, and they've been very polite about it, but essentially how large, as a general rule, we are. And I'm curious, I don't want to say we're fat, but you and I both know that's a huge problem for the South and different areas. I am very curious his opinion as to whether or not he's noticed that or not. So I'll hang up and listen to his answer.
Thanks for the call.
Well, I would definitely say there's more large-sized people here, but I mean, it's really overplayed in social media. So I was kind of expecting it like more than it actually was. Like I was expecting everybody to be kind of chubby in some size, but in truth, there's a far right and far left. Like there's people who's like really fit. Like every kid on the soccer team is pretty much fit, but then there's some people you see like strolling around in them like
at the grocery store.
Yeah, grocery store on them like little scooter things.
The scooter. Yeah,
which is kind of like
Y'all don't have that. Well, there are not a lot of those people in Finland.
No, we don't. Like at that level when you can't walk anymore, we don't have those type of obese people. But we have some big people ourselves too. I don't want to call anybody out, but we have some obese people, but not to that level. No, like if they're like in that bad of a shape where they can't walk, they'll be hospitalized and they'll get some help, because at that point it's like more of a sickness than just enjoying to eat. But yeah, definitely I've noticed it, but I thought it's been less than I thought as it gets overplayed in social media.
Grind says there's no scooters in Finland for the fats.
No. No, if you can't walk, you don't deserve to buy the food anymore in Finland.
Yeah. You missed Finnish food?
To an extent I do.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll be definitely happy when I go home. I can eat some Finnish food. Yeah, sure. What are they saying?
Someone's referencing my physical appearance. So they're making fun of me. I mean, I try. I got some excuses.
Yeah, he tries his best.
I do give it a shot. I mean, I get out and run.
Yeah.
I did Peloton today.
Yeah.
I did a ride with Hannah Marie Corbin was the instructor. 45-minute.
That's great, Neal.
Yeah, it was good.
Every little step.
Every little thing, man. Just got to keep trying.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I appreciate you stopping in. What you got playing tonight?
I wish I knew.
Y'all still trying to organize something?
Actually, I think I have a move now. I think I'm eating and then I'm gonna go hang out with some guys.
Gotcha. All right.
Well, I'll be watching the game definitely.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. Well, I can already go and tell you the outcome.
Finland's gonna win.
Once we declare as a country that we're gonna win. It's like we have the Declaration of Independence. You know, it was the beginning that sort of set it up. Once we declare that, hey, we're gonna take you guys down, that's that.
Well, I'm glad y'all haven't declared.
Oh, I think we have. Keith Kachuk right there. You can tell he's very angry.
He doesn't. He looks petrified.
He grew up hating Finland.
No,
look at him.
Look, he looks petrified with his mouth open. Look at the Finns. Like
he's not even wearing.
These guys are.
He knows
huge.
the Finns are so soft that he doesn't even need a helmet.
No, he's looking at them like these guys are huge.
Yeah,
how am I gonna like?
That's not what it looks like to me.
Yes, it does. No, I saw this TikTok of the NHL and like they were like the Americans. They were glazing the like heck out of like Finnish and European hockey. So they're definitely scared.
Yeah.
Like look at that goal. I don't think he saved a single shot right there.
He's like getting 7 shots on goal at once. He's not even in the goal. They're just taking.
Yeah, he's like look the Finnish goalkeeper. He's there saving them shots.
We very clearly feel we're gonna play without a goalkeeper. We don't even need one.
Without helmets, apparently.
Yeah, no helmets either. Well, when you.
Oh, Mikko Rantanen, he's gonna kick some ass.
Yeah,
kick some butt.
Everyone knows about Mikko Ranta.
Yeah, he's gonna.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Without helmets, they're gonna be sleeping on the ice sooner than you know. Well,
all right, Anchor.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. Appreciate it. All right, that was Eka Lindstrom with his appearance here on MPW Digital. All right, I'll stay max 15 minutes. If anybody wants to call, now's the time to call. Otherwise, it's gonna be time for your boy to. This is podcast number 4 for me today. So closing in on the finish line. The finish line, not the finish line. U.S. and Finland in the nation's face-off. Got some NBA to watch tonight. Last night of the NBA before the All-Star break. Someone asked me earlier, and I didn't get to answer it about the NBA All-Star format. I hate it. I don't understand it. I don't know why they're doing the 3-team tournament thing. It's dumb. I like East versus West. Let them play. It doesn't matter. It's an all-star game. It's nothing stupider, in my opinion, with all-star games than everybody being upset that the game's not competitive. Of course the game's not competitive. It's an all-star game. They're protecting each other. They all make millions of dollars. They don't want anybody to get hurt in the game. You're there just to watch those guys play on the court at the same time. That's what makes it fun. That's what makes people want to watch the Major League Baseball game, not to see who wins the American League versus the National League. It's just to see all the same guys on the same field at the same time. That's really it. I think they killed the Pro Bowl because they didn't want anybody to get hurt, and it's fine. They had the little skills thing, and it's still an honor for the players to be able to go and to be with the other elite players. And I like East versus West. I think that's what Grine's saying. Let's see. He says, go back to the old school way. No more team captains or picking teams. Best in the East, best in the West. And at the end of the game, they'll play hard. But it's okay if it was fun when Kobe would go off for 60 points or whatever. But there was always kind of a moment in those games. Like I can remember younger Kobe, older Michael Jordan kind of going at one another on a couple possessions. And that was fun. It was meant to be fun. Nobody cared who won. It was fun to see East versus West and guys that are going to, in a couple months, compete for to get to the finals being teammates for a minute. Like, it'd be fun to watch SGA and Luka play in the same backcourt. That's fun, even though no one's guarding them. It's fun. I don't know. The way it is now, I'm more worried someone's going to get hurt as opposed to, I mean, if you're an NBA star, you're not going to take a charge in the All-Star game. That would be idiotic. So no one's going to do that. I hope, at least. Yeah, and Grod says, and it feels like it meant more to make the team back then. Yeah, I agree. It meant, like, if you made the Western Conference All-Stars this year, I mean, you did something. That's a star-studded league. And it's fun to see Nikola Jokic and LeBron play together, for example, and to see that some of the young guys in the East get to make the All-Star team and play. And you sort of, I don't know. I always liked the All-Star game, even though it was 180 something to 170 something. It just didn't bother me. I thought that was still fun. And if it was close at the end, there was going to be kind of a competition to see who could be the MVP. And if it was really close, you'd see the competitive juices sort of kick in a little bit. And I just always kind of thought that was fun. And I don't even understand this now and how they do it and how you determine who an MVP is. And it felt like the little draft with Kenny and Shaq and Charles Barkley was sort of rigged, because it probably was. So you got the old guys relatively on one team, all the international guys on another team, and sort of the new cats on another team. And that's cute and all, but nobody thinks about the league like that. People instead, I mean, the conversation today in NBA circles as we get ready for the All-Star break is the Thunder are 44-9 going into tonight's game against Minnesota in Minneapolis. They have a historically great net rating. Like their net rating right now is slightly ahead of the net rating for the 94-95 Bulls. So they're rarefied air in terms of metrics. And so the conversation is, who should the Thunder fear? That's a cool story. I like that story. In the East, you've got Cleveland 44-10. They just made a deal at the break, kind of improved their bench a little bit. They've got Donovan Mitchell having a career year, and Jared Allen and Mobley. They're fun to watch. The conversation is, who's the threat to them? Is it still Boston? Is it the Knicks? Is it possibly Milwaukee? That, to me, that's the fun part of like NBA stuff. So it'd be fun to see those teams, their guys, play together against the West guys. And then everybody splits and we get ready for the playoffs. But again, it doesn't matter. It's an all-star game. All right, we'll wrap it there. I appreciate everybody for calling in. Thanks for doing this. Makes the solo show a lot easier. Again, thanks to Aka for his time on the show tonight as well. So we'll be back with, I'll put this in podcast form tonight, tomorrow, and we'll be back with a full slate of podcasts next week. Don't forget, we'll have coverage at rebelgrove.com. Ole Miss, Mississippi State basketball, 5 o'clock at the Pavilion. Rebels going for their 20th win, looking for their 9th SEC win, and trying to avenge the overtime loss in Starkville last month. And then baseball getting started tomorrow. Ole Miss and Arizona tomorrow afternoon at Globe Life Field in Arlington. Ole Miss and Texas on Saturday, I think, night. Don't hold me to that. I think I'm right. If I'm wrong, I apologize. and then Ole Miss and Clemson on Sunday afternoon to wrap up Ole Miss's appearance there. I think Ole Miss's home opener is Tuesday in Oxford. I probably should have pulled that up, but you can find it at rebelgrove.com. I'm sure Chase has written it. So we'll have coverage of all that. We'll be back with another week of podcast at MPW Digital starting on Monday as well. So again, thanks to everyone. Have a great weekend. See you soon.